all of my love, my peace, and happiness to my brothers and sisters around the world. My name is Jalen, and welcome back to the Lewis 101 Alpha Edition. Thank you all so much for tuning into our channel today from all over the world. I hope everyone's being safe, healthy, taking their day at a time as we still go through our pandemic and these unprecedented times in our history. Today we have my brother, my boy, as usual, Julian. How we doing, Julian? How we doing?
I'm good. I'm good. It's been a minute. It's Julian, in case y'all forgot. This has been quite a while. My beard's gone now. The mask has kind of got to me. But no. Without further ado, for today's episode, we have a representative from the Financial Aid Department from Lewis University, the lovely Miss Alondra Bustos.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm happy to be here with you all to share some important information about general financial aid information, scholarships, and things like that I know a lot of students are probably wondering about, especially now in this time. As they said in the introduction, my name is Alondra Bustos, and I work in the financial aid office at Lewis. I've worked there for about 6 years now, and I primarily deal with handling the awarding process for all of the endowment and scholarship applications for the university, and as well as all that financial information in general for all kinds of students for the university. And I'm happy to be here with you all.
Thank you so much, Ms. Bustos. We are very grateful for having you on our show also. So, financial aid, it's something that obviously students need to be sure that it exists on our campus. I remember going through my freshman orientation a few years back and listening to the presentations by the person at the time saying that he would have people come to his office and they would be like, help me, I want to get more scholarships, but they're about to graduate, they're seniors. We want to kind of cut that out. We want to do our part to make sure that students are aware that scholarships do exist from Lewis University, and there are ways to apply for them. And there are ways to make sure that it's easier for students to get them. So when I was sitting there freshman year, I'm like, really? And I'm sure he said the same thing to them in the past. But the reality is there is a lot of scholarships available from Lewis University. And it's really easy to apply. All you have to do is look for them. All you have to do is keep your eye on the website and keep your ear to the ground. If you want to tune in, Ms. Bustos, I'm sure there's ways that students can be sure that they pay attention to scholarships when they come out.
Yes, well, I would say basically, like you mentioned, we first tell students about our scholarship opportunities when they join the university at the orientation. We kind of talk about we don't go into detail about what scholarships, but we point them in the direction of where they can go on the website to apply for scholarships. Now, these are like privately funded scholarships, so they're all internal. They're not like from companies like McDonald's or Coca-Cola or something like that. They're more private donations that the school gathers or that donors establish agreements with the university to continue funding these awards on a yearly basis. So I would say the most important thing is each year, just like you're familiar with doing your FAFSA to complete the financial aid process on a yearly basis, you want to be doing the same thing with your scholarship research. Every year that you're going to begin a new school year, it's smart for our students to go out there and look for scholarships, whether they are external, like through companies and organizations that they might belong to, or whether they're internal, like within the university that they're already attending, because the opportunities are out there. It's just a matter of you really looking and completing the steps that are required of you for consideration for these funds.
Very true, very true. That's actually smart. In my experience, what I would do is, because I'm always like worried that something would slip through my fingers, I would sit down every few months at the very least
Mhm.
and kind of just check the website every now and then and check out the qualifications and see if I'm like hitting the marks in terms of GPA or just requirements. Uh, but for those that don't have that time or those that don't have that availability to do so, basically, that is a smart thing to do. Sitting down once a year and making sure that they at least check the website. Um,
Yeah.
yes. What were we saying?
I'm sorry, I was just saying, yeah, once a year, like we always announce, like when our cycle is going to open up. So that would be like probably the best time to go out and submit an application because once you submit it, it kind of stays within the system, and it pretty much continues to recommend it to the various opportunities that we may have. So if you're doing it at least once a year, I would say that's good. I know a lot of students, like you mentioned at first, probably only do it once, and then they're a senior and they have a balance, and now they're wondering if there's anything else that they can get. Like they forget about it, and that's very common. But if you're doing it at least once a year, or make it accustomed that just like you do your FAFSA once a year, you log into the site to complete an application for scholarships once a year, I would say you're pretty much being considered for like the vast majority of the scholarships that we have because the system kind of automatically will read some of the information that it's looking for on your profile to kind of match you to some of the opportunities.
Hmm, I see. Oh, interesting. I actually never talked to a financial person in this light before, so I'm learning stuff as well. That's the goal for everybody. So, so on that note, on the note of trying to do it once a year, I think it'd be beneficial for students to know when scholarships come out for students to apply to. You say do it once a year where you kind of go to the website and apply it. But when is like a good time for students to, okay, scholarships are coming out. I need to sit down and I need to start applying. Like, when do you think is a good time for students to uh, make sure that they don't miss out on these opportunities?
Yes, so each year our cycle works like from in the month of December, so this upcoming December we're gonna like close out our current scholarship offerings, which are applicable to the current 2020-21 school year. That
Mm,
those are all like being looked at this time, and typically at the end of the calendar year, so December is when we'll close out for the year and work on opening up the application for the following school year at that time. So I typically try to make the application available before the Christmas break. Usually I've been able to do it probably a week or two before the Christmas break. So at that time, an email communication goes out also to students to let them know that it's available to them now. And I would say around that, basically, we give it a period of about 3 months before we even start to review any applications or consider anyone, because we want to collect, applications during that period of time to have them like satisfied. So I would say anytime between December, January, February, March, early on in the new year, so like 2021, is when you want to start submitting your applications. Now this would be the application to be reviewed for the following fall of 2021.
mm,
But like I mentioned, some of these scholarships, well, it takes some time to find students for some of them that meet all of the requirements. So for that reason, it's kind of an ongoing process where we opened it up, let's say, and we made the application available in December. It takes us a couple of months to get through them all and find all of the students that meet the criteria and get them awarded. Because besides doing that, like we're also working with the rest of the financial aid process that goes on during the year in our office. So it's not it's not possible to work on these every day. That's why also in part why it takes a little bit of time. So I would say like if you don't hear anything back, like right away, just know that that's normal. It does take us a little bit of time, and it's an ongoing process where we just continue to review, like we just continue to work on our list until we get all of them pretty much completed and awarded. So just because you submitted an application in February and it's already, I don't know, March or April, you think you're not getting anything, that's still pretty early on in the process. I would say don't get discouraged, and maybe you will be ultimately offered an award, but just later on, once we get to review that one scholarship that you fit all the criteria for, that's just like way down in our list to get to right away.
I see. Very true. I would imagine working in the office, it's a lot of work. I'm sure there are a lot of students that apply, or at least nowadays. I think I'm asked differently, but I digress. So, all right, kind of taking it back for a second. You touched on some of the requirements for the scholarships. Can you give us like a few examples of what is needed to apply for scholarships at Lewis?
So one of the most common like criteria that we see is, well, if you're seeking a scholarship, typically it's an indication of, you're seeking financial assistance. So what we want to see is that students first have submitted their FAFSA, which is their application for federal aid, because that FAFSA information tells us a lot about like what your particular financial need is. And I don't know if I'm getting into terms that people probably won't even understand too much, but basically we want to see what your like financial need is and what types of aid you're being offered from the federal government, that and kind of try to see what the gap is between what your financial need is and what your tuition cost is. So having like financial need, and what that means is just taking the time to file a FAFSA will help you kind of be considered for a lot of the scholarships. Another criteria, of course, is being in good academic standing. So that means having a pretty decent GPA, meaning that you're not failing a lot of your classes or dropping a lot of your classes where you're like on probation, or having to receive a warning because you're not meeting the GPA and things like that. That's also very important and also very common in the criteria that we see listed. And then the rest of it, besides those two general ones, the rest of it all varies. Like it starts getting into, some of them are specific to a major, like accounting, biology, aviation. Some of them will start getting more specific as far as, or they wanted to be a resident of Will County or Chicago, or a couple of the Chicago suburbs can be a criteria. Some of them will require you to answer other specific questions, like a small essay or provide a letter of recommendation. So they all vary a lot. I've seen a couple different requirements where it's a little more difficult to find people that meet everything. But then for the most part, they're all pretty general in terms of a GPA, like let's say 3.0 with a business administration degree, who's a sophomore and is in good academic standing. So that would be like for example, a typical criteria of a scholarship that we may see.
Okay, very true. So something else I wanted to add on to that was, along with being in a certain college, for example, like aviation or the business department, something else that scholarships look for is involvement, getting involved. If you're in a Greek organization like Alpha, if you're in the Black Student Union, if you're part of the Gospel Choir, if you're part of any organization, there might be a chance to get a financial aid award with that. That is, if you are active, if you are a member that brings stuff up to the table, if you do your part as a part of an organization too, there might be a possibility that a scholarship is attached. So I guess kind of bring it all together in one is there are many different reasons to get a scholarship at Lewis. But at the end of the day, make sure that you do have a high academic standard and that you are pursuing generally high academic achievement. 3.0
Yes.
GPA is relatively, it's a GPA that's worth fighting for. And especially to the incoming freshmen, I think I've said this before in other episodes, the point is when you get to Lewis, you hit the ground running all the time in your classes, getting involved, and that's how, in my opinion, you are able to get access to some support. And other than the resources and the skills that you acquire in organizations too, on that side, there is a possibility for you to be able to support yourself on your financial aid. And Jillian, as a baseball player, I could probably say the same for athletes. Want to talk on that?
With athletes and GPAs, hitting the ground running, it's like it puts you in a different type of cushion where you don't have to think about the eligibility aspect. So now, because there's a lot of people that are in situations where they haven't adapted to college life or they didn't walk into college first day and then just take off with their homework and their studying and stuff. Sometimes it takes guys a few days or a few weeks, even a few months to adjust to practice, lifts, games, travel, homework, tests, teachers, all that. It's a lot to handle for some people, but for those who can come in and get straight to business, there's a different there's a bigger cushion. Also, there's like awards and stuff for high scholastic achievement. Um, but yeah, it's definitely worth chasing. 100% eligibility is everything to an athlete, so you're gonna want to stay above water at all times, no matter what.
Right. So I imagine getting on the baseball team is a little bit harder than just being a student, though. I would obviously assume.
Yeah, you know,
Yeah.
I do wanna say one thing about financial aid though to the people or to the students who are future students or students who are current. Um, One thing I've figured out and I've been kind of doing naturally, and my parents have kind of pushed me to do is that college takes a lot of money. And so when you get here, not only is your job to graduate, but your job is to try and get as much money back as you can. So what I like about our financial aid people is that they will help you with that. Um, Jalen was the one who introduced me to that whole scholarship portal to where you could just throw your name and a few some information in there, and it opens you up to a whole different aura of opportunities for you to make more money to get some back. And the financial aid people are there to help, and they want you to suck that money back out. So it's a blessing to see because I've been able to do it for I'm a junior, so it's my third year now, and it's looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good. I'm getting about as good as I can right now.
I completely agree. And Ms. Bustos, I'm sorry, did you want to say something?
Well, no, just one of the things I wanted to mention was a lot of the times, once you're selected for one of the awards, it is possible that you can have that be renewed for the next year, for the following year, and it can kind of provide support for like pretty much the rest of your college career. All it takes is for you to like follow up and reapply because a lot of students miss that. They just think that it's a one-time deal and you know you just do this application like this one time and somehow you're going to continue to receive a couple $1,000 years after years after years. But the donors want to see some effort or some input from the students, and where at least you're applying and kind of staying on top of it on a yearly basis, because that's pretty much at least the minimum required on the students' part in order for us to continue to grant the funding, as well as maintaining whatever the initial criteria is. You know, like if it required you to have a 3.0 GPA and the following year for some reason you struggled and you have like a lower than that GPA, then we're going to check that and determine if you're still eligible for it or not. So all that's required is that you continue to kind of meet the standards and at least reapply on a yearly basis.
I agree.
And a lot of the times they do prefer to like select the same student like for the following year, because the main goal of the scholarships is kind of to help support you into ultimately completing a degree, a university degree. Like that's kind of like a main goal of the funding.
Right. Okay.
So I don't know if that helps or kind of helps to provide at least a little bit more encouragement for students to like continue to seek or apply for them, knowing that some of them will be limited to like a one-time only, but a lot of them are pretty much in general like meant to be renewable to you to help continue to support you financially until you graduate, which traditionally takes 4 years. I'm not gonna guarantee like if it's 6 years that you'll still be getting one, but at least the traditional like 4-year college degree experience, it's kind of designed to help support and fund you for the rest of those years, and the ultimate goal is to see you graduate.
Right. So I would say, as just a moral of that story is, the university wants to help, and if you do stay on your P's and Q's through your academic time at Lewis, and if you are persistent, then scholarships will still be there, and those same ones that you applied a year prior might still be available for you, basically.
Yeah.
Okay,
That
cool.
is correct.
So I just making sure everyone gets it, because this is important. The reason why I want to break it down even further and further to bite-sized pieces for our audience is this is important, because this stuff is there for y'all, for us. It's there. Don't forget, you have to always go to the portal, which, by the way, about the portal, where is the portal, Ms. Bustos? Where will we find these scholarships?
There is a link for them on the portal. I guess maybe I got more used to the directing students to the main website, like the Lewis University website. It's under the financial aid and admissions tab. And then once you click on that, there's a menu that'll specifically say scholarships. And that's what you want to click on. Initially, the page will list the yearly scholarships that we offer to like new incoming freshmen. And right below that, you'll see an announcement for endowed and annual scholarships that will ask you to log in to the application. That's using your same like login name and password that you use for your email and for your Lewis account.
Blackboard and stuff like that.
Yes, the same one. And it is also located on the MyLewis portal. I can't remember exactly right now. I'm sorry about that. But there is a link I had put on there maybe about 2 years ago. I think I just got so used to going through the website, and I'm not a student, so I don't go through the portal that much that I don't remember clearly under which section it is, but I know it's out there. If anyone has any questions directly for me, feel free to post or give out my my work information, and they can reach to me, and I can find out exactly how to guide them to that on the portal.
You got it. We'll make sure that everyone finds the information in our description below. We'll have the information for her email, her contacts, and we'll also have some directions on how to get to the scholarship portal on the Lewis University website. We'll put that up there too for students.
Yeah,
just in case
sounds good.
Okay, cool. So kind of going back to what I was saying earlier, breaking this down, again, we're just trying to make sure all the students are aware that these exist and that they're very easy to access. What I would normally do in my practice when I would sit down to do a scholarship was, if I didn't remember to go through the tabs and go through to the scholarship link from there, in the right corner, the top right corner of the Lewis University website is a little spyglass. I click it, I would type in scholarships, I would hit enter, I would click the first link, and when I get to that page, I'll scroll to the bottom, and it would be this little box that says scholarships apply here, and I would click that. That's what I would normally do. So just
it still looks like that actually.
Looks just like that. Yeah, I would normally try to visit as much as I could these past few years, but I got it in there, and I also have people that supported me at Lewis to make sure that I was on top of my thing. Specifically, the Bridge to Success program. I'm a alum of that program, and a few of my friends that were older than me, like Will Riley, who will also be on another episode soon. But what I'm trying to say is I'm grateful for my friends and for those people that directed me when I could. So this is us giving it back. So kind of moving on to some other just points we want to make sure the students know. Is there anything required of Lewis students to do after they receive a scholarship from the university? Would you know?
Yes. So Lewis does a really good job of following up with the donors that establish the scholarships for students, because it's very important to kind of give it some follow up and show that we are grateful as a university that you decided to donate this funding to help students out, that they really commit to following up or to having the students who are recipients of the scholarships follow up and be great and show their gratitude to the donors. So there's a whole kind of like, after you receive the initial scholarship, you'll get another email that will tell you like what's required of you. Typically that involves writing a thank you letter to the donor. And then I don't know if they send it or they help send it on your behalf. Every year they typically around this time, I think actually coming up in the next week or two, they'll be hosting a scholarship orientation where they gather all of the students that have been selected so far, and they have them do a couple of different activities. I remember attending the orientation last year, and they had some students like record video messages to the donors, just saying thank you and explaining how like the money really helped them out to pay for college, or if they had a situation where they needed some funding, how that helped and things like that. I think sometimes they have them write like postcards for Christmas. Like I know it's pretty early for Christmas, but they have them like prepare them during the orientation so they can have them ready for the holiday season, and then they send those to the donors. So they kind of help, I guess, establish a little bit of a relationship with the donor and the student, and kind of just really show that we're grateful that they have decided to donate money to the university, and kind of help them see how their donation pretty much helped the students succeed. So there is some activities may be required on your end, but it's nothing too involved. Nothing more than like writing maybe thank you notes or a letter, maybe recording a message via video that will be sent later, and things like that really. And then sometimes the relationships between the students and like the donor kind of really take off, where they communicate even beyond what's required, just because they, I don't know, either they really found that they got along, or they somehow bonded and they kind of continue that relationship.